Realtist Real Talk Podcast. Hello, fellow Realtists. I am Amber Lewis.
And I'm Rob Pasker.
And we are your Realtist Real Talk Podcast team. And we are here today with Chris Senegal, a social impact developer.
Give it up. Social impact developer. You got to put more energy than that. This is Mr. Buy Back the Block himself.
Yes.
Come on,
or
now.
better known as.
Welcome, man. Welcome all the way from H-Town, huh?
H-Town down. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So, for those that don't know, if you just happen to just catch the episode, we're here in Washington, D.C. Congressional Black Caucus Foundation annual legislative conference is going down. NAREB had a session yesterday, state of emergency, buy back the block, and we had a panel of some power brokers in real estate, and Chris was among them. And we only got a snippet of his story, so we had to bring him back for here so we can get more sauce, because Van Jones was trying to pull the juice about you, man.
Yeah.
You gave us a little bit, Van's like, nah, we know there's more in there.
Right. See, I was trying to follow the instructions because we had timelines and short windows to answer.
Yeah.
So, trying to stay within the guidelines, follow instructions for.
So tell us a little bit more, because I know people were hungry to understand who is Chris. Tell us your story, how you got here. There's probably a wealth of people like, I want to be him one day.
Okay, well, yeah, so started off, I went from being a teenage dad, getting kicked out of school in middle school, to graduating college on a full academic scholarship, engineering, got in the corporate world, and I hated it. So after the first year, I said, I'm going to figure out my shortcut, my early exit strategy. So I got into flipping houses. Did that for a few years, and I realized, man, the way we're taught to flip houses by people outside of our communities actually accelerates gentrification inside of our communities. So I decided to hit reset, and I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. Talked to a bunch of people. Everybody just gave me the same old runaround, and that's just the way it is. But, I'm used to solving problems. That's what engineers do.
Right.
The collegiate route just didn't fulfill it for me. So this entrepreneurial route is where I went. And just started realizing, man, there's opportunities in our own communities in every city, because we built those neighborhoods before desegregation. Our three or four generations back were actually freed slaves, and they built these communities.
Absolutely.
And so there's no reason why we can't rebuild these communities.
100%.
And so my shortcut came in like 2013 when I realized, hey, there's people that are inheriting a whole bunch of real estate when their parents pass away that they don't want. And so what I realized is you can get owner financing from them. So instead of going to a bank, say, hey, I'll give you this much down, may give you payments on over time. And that's how I literally started buying blocks in 2013, 2014, before it was a catchphrase. But I would go into the neighborhoods that I knew gentrification was coming, and I would talk to the families, get them on board, and make it a win-win for them, too, because they get passive income.
Absolutely.
It's like being a landlord, but not having any responsibilities, because now I'm paying the taxes, I'm paying the insurance, I'm returning everything, and they're making money.
Wow.
So I got into that, and then some of the property I bought was commercial property. But it was blighted, like old grocery stores and things like that. And I would go to all the flagship chains, and they would tell me demographics don't make sense. There's no way that we would bring a store here because we're not going to be profitable.
Right.
So we think it's all racism sometimes. A lot of it just comes down to economics and business.
Yeah.
So the first block, I decided to remove the entire block of commercial buildings that were just blighted and do new construction homes. And I targeted young black working professionals.
Okay.
I could target them because I was using social media before the project was done, saying what was coming, so that I wasn't violating any Fair Housing Act. Yeah. So long story short, that first project, all of my buyers were young black working professionals.
Wow.
All of them have over $100,000 in equity in their house now.
That's
and
amazing.
None of them were trying to be real estate investors.
Right.
But when we buy in our own neighborhoods that are going through revitalization anyway, it's only gentrification if we don't participate.
100%.
And the values are going to double or triple in those areas.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what's happening.
That's absolutely. So how long have you been at it with the real estate game?
2008 is when I started.
So you got in at the crash.
Right after college. Yeah, during the crash.
Yeah.
Which as an investor, is the best time to get in anything.
Buy while there's blood in the streets.
Buying low.
Yeah.
Buy low. Yeah. So I got into that way, flipping houses and doing wholesaling back then. I didn't get into the new construction probably until like 2017.
Wow. It's a transition. So I mean, me personally, I'm a real estate broker now. I'm a HUD certified housing counseling agency branch manager, but my foot in the door in real estate was through wholesaling. I said I'm gonna just go ahead and wholesale a couple of houses, stack some bands, to build my supply chain and my tea company. And it sounds like for you, wholesaling was your entryway.
Yeah, well, actually, so I started flipping first.
Okay.
And then, but then the wholesale market gets to the point where the wholesalers get really greedy, basically.
Absolutely.
And they absorb all the profits out the deal. So then I decided, well, I need to wholesale and source my own deals as well. So I did that for a while too. And then when I got into wholesaling, I got into the wholesaling network, I realized a lot of these people operate very unethically.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Holistically, yeah.
You're targeting distressed people, and you know that there's this much value left in it, and you're not going to tell them. You're going to take all the profit and then walk away and then post a check, and that person is desolate. You know, so I didn't like that approach of the real estate. Now, there are ethical ways to do wholesaling.
Oh, 100%.
But it should be fair and equitable on both sides of the transaction. Even if the other side doesn't know, you should be willing to give up something that's fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I learned. To be transparent, I never got to the wholesale. I never wholesaled a deal. I got everything together. Got the bandit signs. Had the hotline, foreclosure hotline. But my homeboy was third generation Realtist in his grandmother's brokerage. She's a black woman that got a real estate license in 1963. He told me, he's like, Rob, just get your license. You know, because when you're wholesaling, you're scraping the bottom of the real estate barrel versus with a license, anybody becomes a potential client. So, so with that being said, with NAREB, how did you hook up with NAREB?
Well, the network in Houston is pretty tight, and I had to kind of established a brand for what I was doing in the community. So I forgot who I reached out to first, but I've been knowing Courtney Johnson Rose, who's now the national president, for a very long time. Her dad is very prominent, probably the most well-known black developer in the city of Houston. And so just being in her circle and being invited in to come and speak at some of the events. So I've been a part of it for a while.
And what a beautiful juxtaposition, I think, in the partnership as well. You know, the fact that you have a background in investment and we have Wire, you know, as a woman who's invested in real estate myself. And I know Rob was talking about third generation. I'm third generation myself. To be able to see someone like yourself and be able to learn from that story, I think the biggest thing, especially as a woman investor, is the strategy that you go into it with. And you understood, okay, this is where I'm going to lock in at. I'm going to create my own supply, which is what you did at the end of the day. And I think, you know, a lot of times people who want to start to invest are like darting squirrels. They're like, here's a property. I'm just going to buy the property. I'm going to figure out later. But you had that strategy. Can you talk a little bit about, in your partnership with NAREB, the fact that we have this holistic umbrella of our pillars and our strategy, but how that also coincides with the strategy that you're focused on?
Yeah. Before I go there, I want to answer one thing. We'll tell you about one other part of the project, which is the most important challenge we always have is funding, access to capital. And so the other part of the By the Block movement is the actual creative ways to raise money for your deals. And so I use crowdfunding. So in addition to doing the new construction where we're bringing the higher incomes back, we also need to protect the existing residents in the community, and which is our responsibility as the real estate experts, because everybody in every other industry depends on us. And they go, and it's usually the biggest acquisition or the biggest purchase that anybody makes in their personal life is going to be a home or something 100%. Like that. So they don't know the other side of the business. So with the rental properties, that's who, when we are selling new construction in the neighborhood and bringing the higher incomes, the best way to protect existing residents is to own the rental properties, because then you control the rents and you control what happens to the tenants in the community. If we leave it up to the landlords and people from the outside, then there's always going to be gentrification. So I was able to do a $1 million crowdfund. We bought an entire block of property, had 18 residents on it. Some of the tenants have been living there for 15, 20 years, mostly seniors, very low rent rates, but none of them on Section 8. They're all like hardworking people. And so we were able to, between the community and social media, we raised like over 1,400 people raised $1.2 million.
Wow.
And we bought the entire block.
That's
we were able to keep everybody's rents about where they were. I'm talking about below $750, which is unheard of in the city. Oh, but because the neighborhood, once again, is going through revitalization, the value in that area is going up tremendously. So we bought it for 1.2. The last appraisal we got is like 2.9.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then there was 2 vacant commercial buildings on the property that we turned into. One is an event space, and one is like a creative space for podcast studios and things like that. Wow. So but those 2 spaces generate enough revenue where we don't have to worry about going to raise the rent on the tenants right now. But to answer your question, I'm tying it all together. There's 3 things I believe that you need to be successful in anything you do in life. And I call it my success triangle. So you need the knowledge and experience, you need the opportunity, and you need the money. The shortcut is to come to the table with one and find the people that have the other two. Yeah. So in certain circumstances, let's say I go find a piece of land, and I'm going to go to a broker and say, hey, is this a good area to build in? And what's the activity looking like over there? Or I'm going to go talk to a lender and say, hey, do you have any buyers interested in this area that you got pre-qualified? And then I'm going to take the knowledge and experience from that group and my contractor and my architect. I'm going to take the opportunity. And then I'm going to go try to raise the money for the project. So whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's a small group of investors. But it's a whole lot better when you have that whole team set up in place and you can execute on things that it'll be impossible for you to do on your own. Like you said, people just try to shoot those shots in the dark.
Right.
It's okay to be a copycat. You just got to copy off the right cat.
Absolutely.
So you got to have a team of experts around you that can help you execute whatever vision you have.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, as they say, right? You have an expert that's on your team. I think that's also the key to development. You know, a lot of times individuals think, like, I have to have all of this money to be able to be a developer. And it's like, no, you don't. You just have to your point in the triangle, have one of those things that you can bring to the table and find partners.
I think something that's astounding about what you've done is you've allowed people to enter the real estate industry, get their foot in the door without much risk through crowdfunding. So on the flip side of that, when you raise all of this money, you're now responsible to do what you said you were going to do. How do you deal with that type of that onus of liability and something like that?
Well, I tell you what, so crowdfunding, people may think of it as GoFundMe, but it's not. People want their money back, they want it back on time, and they want a profit.
They want that interest.
So it's a big difference. So for me, I knew that the regulations had passed, and I had been doing other projects. Like even the new construction is a little more risky, right? Because anything can go wrong from the time you buy the land to getting the permits approved to going into construction. That could push your timeline out or prevent your project from going through. So I felt like that was too risky to do crowdfunding for. But when you're buying an existing portfolio of rental properties and the tenant's been there 15, 20 years, what's the likelihood that the revenue is going to go away when you buy it?
It's true.
It's hardly none.
It's true.
So, and plus it's in a neighborhood where, like I said, revitalization's happening. So the property value alone is going up. So if you buy it at the right price, in the worst case, you just sell the property, at least get the investors their money back. Second worst case, you don't make any money, but you take the rent profits and distribute it amongst the investors. Right. So those are the type of investments I'd see make sense.
Gotcha.
And it's something that, like my communication was clear in the front end. This is not a get rich project. This is a social impact project. The returns aren't going to be amazing. They may be on par with stock market or something like that, or 8 to 10%, but it's guaranteed, it's impact, and it's long term. And when you're taking people's money, you can't really overpromise anyway. You got to be very conservative. So I know the property value is going to double because it always does when the hood turns over.
We're not going to plan for that, though.
Yeah, we're not going to say that. We can't say that. But the value's already doubled.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I'm a firm believer when it comes to business and service, under promise and over deliver. Absolutely. So I can see how that works for you. So I mean, at a point you told your story, and the activities that you were doing, you felt were a detriment to your community, and eventually you found a better way to impact the community. Did you see your brand growing to this level, taking you to this many places at that point?
Man, I didn't. But what I've learned is when you really focused on solving a problem a lot of people have, then it's a lot easier for you to get exposure. People start talking about what you're doing in rooms you're not in. And I think that's kind of how the brand grew. Even when I did the crowdfund, raised over $1 million, it was the first time it had been done outside of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. I didn't pay for any marketing, any ads. It was just conversations, people asking me to come on podcasts, just off of social media.
And it grew from there.
Yep, and it grew from there.
When you think through your strategy, especially, as you scale and you think towards the future of everything, I hear a lot about, in the conversation we're having right now, about enabling the people that are in the community to stay, right? You're not displacing them. Is there something within that strategy to enable them to actually be able to purchase these homes and actually have real estate within their own portfolio, in the future as well?
Yeah, so there's a few ways we can do that. Number one, the properties that we own, we're making sure they're getting financial literacy training and those types of things. And I'm also working with the Housing Authority right now to get what's called project-based vouchers. So it's like Section 8, but instead of the tenant having the voucher, the landlord has it. And so they've observed what I'm doing. They know how the property values in the area are going up. And so what they're willing to do is pay me more than what the tenants are paying to make sure I keep the affordability there.
I see.
Yeah.
So they're subsidizing.
Once those tenants get approved and that project gets approved to be in the program, they're actually eligible to go get a voucher afterwards if they want to. A lot of people don't know this. The Section 8 program, the legislation says that you can use that to pay a mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We have that in Cleveland. Yeah. It's very big in Cleveland.
So the goal is to help them get their credit right. And then instead of them moving into another rental property, we're moving them in to purchase a house. And I have a partnership with the land bank as well.
Okay.
So and a bunch of my close circle of friends are builders that build for the land bank and build affordable housing.
Absolutely.
So we have that whole pipeline available. Yeah.
So when you're thinking through your overall strategy, what I'm hearing is that you're vertically aligned, right? Which is great because you can scale more efficiently and faster. You know, a part of your business segment talking about the fact that you're trying to move some of these renters to homeowners in the future. How does that also encompass your partnership with NAREB? You know, we've talked about buy back the block. You're talking about investing. We have Wire. And now we're also talking about the fact that you can even purchase some of the properties. So where do you see the partnership with NAREB going in the future too?
Well, I think that you all are the core group that can help fulfill this mission in every city. Even with the rental properties, I mean, as realtors have clients that want to be renters, they should be looking for projects like this, where it's collectively investment groups from the community focused on rebuilding the community, making sure that these places stay leased up so that it's profitable, so we can go and do the next project. Same thing with the new construction. When you see builders or developers trying to do projects in our communities, make sure you let your clients know about these projects ahead of time. The more these projects that we can get pre-sold, the faster that developer, that builder, that investor can go and do more projects in the community. Yeah. And so, I mean, you know, everybody has financial limitations, but the more you can take to a bank and say, hey, I already got everything pre-sold, the faster the bank will give you more money to go do more deals and more investors will come to the table. So you guys really are the core part of that. And that's kind of the partnership I want to have, is like making sure the developers and the builders know they need to be working with NAREB specifically, you know, to make sure we have that success triangle.
Absolutely. We're going to have more developers because we just announced that we got a $500,000 grant for the Black Developers Academy. So it's about to go down.
It's
going up.
This is the place to be. So if you're not a member yet, shout out. Make sure you're a member.
Definitely join.
So you're on a journey. We see you're on a journey, you're on a path. You're touching more people every day, every month. What's coming up for Chris Senegal?
Larger scale development. So right now I'm the only African American development partner with the City of Houston Housing Authority. Okay. So we're doing an $85 million deal right now. It's a 340 unit apartment complex, and we're bringing the top performing Black charter school system in the country to Houston. It'll be their first Texas location. Wow. So it's just another part of the mission, the goal. In order for business to thrive and you know, education to be better in our communities, we have to have a higher concentration of higher incomes, so demographics match, so that the tax dollars match, other kind of things. So a lot of people that don't want to be homeowners, there's a big trend for renters right now. So the fastest way to do that is to do big multifamily projects, right? So you bring a high concentration of higher net worth people in, or higher income people in, and half of the building is affordable, but the other half is market rate. Right. The other thing we always talk about in our communities, why we don't want to move back first, and why other people buy up all the real estate, is because they talk about the public schools. Well, the solution is bring in your own high-performing charter schools that are already in existence with strong track records. Absolutely. You shortcut that process too. Genius. Yeah. So that's
exciting.
So that's the second part of the process right now. Wow. So scale up and take that whole model and start having people replicate that from city to city.
I can see that.
Within your development that you were just talking about specifically, are you using LIHTC, low income tax credit, for that?
I'm not.
Okay.
LIHTC makes the project very, very, very restricted.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And it concentrates on a certain demographic that, while there's an importance to look out for the lowest of the low, that's not really what the community needs. We don't want to concentrate more of that over there. For instance, for the affordability component of my apartment complex, I'm focusing on entrepreneurs and business owners because their tax returns say they make $30,000, $40,000 a year too, so they qualify. Well, if that business owner is anchored in that community and they're in a place in an environment full of other entrepreneurs, it's more likely their business is going to grow. It's more likely they're going to anchor their storefront or their retail or their office in the neighborhood. It's more likely they're going to hire locally in the community. and it's more likely that they will scale up and then become the next homeowner and buy in that neighborhood as well, and create a pipeline for more opportunities like that. So with LIHTC, it becomes very restrictive. Right. But what I am using is opportunity zone funds.
Okay.
Because opportunity zone funds are on the opposite end of that. They target the same demographic, but the investors that put the money into the fund still want high returns.
Yes.
They're not doing charity work. Right. So by taking this approach, I can kind of crack the nut on both sides.
Okay. Are you going to leverage, or have you leveraged in the past, like new market at all in your development, or is the income bracket too high in some of your areas?
No, from most areas, like I said, the good thing about another really good thing about going through neighborhoods that are going through revitalization is the demographics look really, really low. Even though in 2 years it's going to be completely different, it qualifies for all the programs. So new market tax credits is definitely something we're going to use on the second phase.
Okay, so you are thinking about leveraging them.
Yeah, the charter school.
The charter school. Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah.
You've created a model. You create a model for people, so hopefully y'all paying attention.
You're right. You're hearing some secrets, a little bit of jewels here. I hope you're writing it down.
Absolutely, man. Well, we appreciate you coming. We appreciate your partnership.
Thank you so much.
You just blessed us because, like I said, on stage we didn't get enough.
We did not get any of this.
Right. Absolutely, man. So we hope to see you again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We'll be
we have Black Summit coming up.
Black Summit's in Birmingham.
Okay.
Why do I feel like Houston is on them?
Houston, we have our tour in Houston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
We're
excited for that. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be there. You'll be there, right?
Yeah.
With bells on, celebrating. We're excited for that.
Well, we appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
Likewise. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.